morning, everyone. I'm Matt Mile. Thank you for joining us at the Institute of Modern Languages Research, School of Advanced Study, University of London today. Welcome to the workshop, Turkey and Islam in France and Europe, generously sponsored by the César Staunton Trust and hosted by the Centre for the Study of Cultural Memory. Many thanks go to the César Trust, the Director of the Institute of Modern Languages Research, Catherine Davis, the Institute's Administrator, Kath Collins, and here with us today, the Director of the Centre for the Study of Cultural Memory, Katia Pisi. The workshop will start by focusing on a recent film about arranged marriages in Turkey, written by a Turkish-French film director. Deniz Gamze Ergüven's 2015 film Mustang won the César Awards for Best Original Screenplay, Best Editing, Best Original Music, and Best First Feature Film. The film raises the issues of women's rights, faith, cinema itself, family, cultural identity, and migration in France and Turkey. Other films by Turkish-German and Turkish-Italian film directors will be introduced, as well as migrant literature from France, Italy, and Germany. The multiple award-winning Turkish-French novelist Nedim Gursel will speak on medieval perceptions of the Prophet Mohammed. A screening of Mustang will follow in the afternoon. Cultural identity and migration affect each other in multiple ways in the present age of geopolitical and techno-scientific change. The challenge of safeguarding the rights of Muslims has had a profound effect on cultural memory in the European Union. This workshop investigates cultural memory and identity in France, Turkey, and Europe in relation to multiple understandings of Islam and national belonging. Perhaps post-traumatic stress, Professor Harald Bowman will talk about that later this afternoon, is an area of study whose liminality between neurological and cultural memory can play a part in fostering an aesthetic estrangement from othering ideologies. A critical re-engagement with a piece of the French and European self in its non-Christian neighbour, Turkey. Everyday radical thinking and the social reinvestment in interface understanding give rise to multiple lieux de mémoire beyond established definitions of identity and belonging. For Muslims in French banlieue, cultural memory with Justin Wright in a minute, and in medieval chronicles of the Crusades with our own Nedim Gursel, to Barbe Bleu-like visions of trauma versus belonging in the film Mustang. Our discussion will span several centuries of French-European relations with Turkey and Islam. The film screening will crown the day. I will open the workshop. I'm a fellow in Cultural Memory Studies at the Institute of Modern Languages Research, School of Advanced Study, University of London, and I previously lectured in Italian and European history in Northwest England and Wales. I've published in the field of contemporary history of fiction and performing arts from France, Italy, and Germany. My current research deals with migrant cultural memory in cinema and literature. About a month ago, I had to switch off the radio for a few days to reduce my daily intake of comments on the, to everyone's belief, overruled Muslim travel ban across the pond. Meanwhile, on our side of the ocean, this young Turkish-French film director, Deniz Gamze Ergüven, has been widely acclaimed for her debut, which is a brilliant addition to the impressively long list of highly successful migrant European films made by film directors who are originally from the same Muslim-majority country. To open our workshop, I'll give this talk, Turkish Bluebeard, from Mustang to Euromosques, which is about her debut. The youngest girl in the film, her name's Lala, recounts the fall of a toxic uncle who harasses her sisters. The bard on screen, the storyteller, the youngest sister in the film, Lala, shares her function of storyteller with her teacher, her name's Dilek, who's a young woman who now lives in the westernized city of Istanbul. The little girl, Lala, embodies the role of a storyteller. She narrates how the toxic uncle strives to dictate her sister's lives, only to be overthrown in the film's ending. Deniz Gamze Ergüven's film Mustang, and Leyla Abulela's recent novel, Minaret. give us a chance to ponder on sexism in a Muslim majority country, Turkey, in the case of the film, and on Islamophobia right here in London and in other European cities, in the case of the novel by Leyla Migrant. The school in Turkey, where Dilek is a teacher and Lali is a pupil, and the mosque in Europe in Leyla's novel, these are two parallel spaces of contestation for multiple identities. And we can zoom in on these two locales in order to address some of the issues raised by the film and the novel. One scene of the film, Mustang, stages the relative view of identity and gender as a set of elusive speech genres, like these puppets, which are relative to bonds and links defined through discursive utterances within given situations. The younger sister, Lala, explains to the recently sexually abused sister, Noah, that an arranged marriage is not the only way out of submission in their uncle's home, whereas their sisters have had to undergo arranged marriages. So the little sister is explaining to Noah that she can escape sexual and other forms of verbal and domestic abuse also in different ways. In fact, their teacher, Dilek, can help them empower themselves by means of the knowledge and learning which their repressive education at home has denied them if they only reunite with her in Istanbul. So there's a silver lining to this very, very troubling film we'll watch later. And when this happens, when Lala talks with his sister Noor about the room's dim light and dark colours as semiotic signs underscoring the scene's richness and meaning, this dialogue reminds the audience that this film is experimenting exactly on unusual blends of male and female gender performances. The social reinvestment achieved in and through these genre and gender blends is precisely a fairy tale in the style of Bluebeard, whose unfolding ungrounds and lets down all expectations for a happy ending, featuring the heroic triumph of a prince with a princess in what would have been, in this case, a sad arranged marriage. The novel Minaret, set here in London, presents some common features of Abu Layla's fiction. The multiple setting in London and in Africa conveys the complex positioning of displacement experienced by the characters of the novel, the embodiment of hegemonic masculinity falling into subordination due to drug abuse is the narrator's brother, Omar. Quote, Omar dropped us and went off to another party, a private one this time, some silly affair he didn't want to take me to. They were getting more frequent, these mysterious outings of his, and so were the places and friends I was not a part of. End quote. His sister, who is the novel's narrator, Naja, recounts Omar's gradual addiction to drugs and his arrest in terms of homosocial alienation as the inadequate model of hegemonic masculinity which he inhabits traps him in subordination and social exclusion. While Omar's story occupies the first half of Naja's narration, the second half of the novel switches to Naja's friend, Tamar, who struggles to escape hegemonic masculinity himself. However, he eventually succeeds in pursuing his subaltern academic interests and come to terms with the need to compromise with his family and culture over letting go of his plan to marry Naja without his mother's approval. Tamar and Omar form the symbolic twinhood of neuroplastic, flexible rewiring and its dark double neurological stringency doomed to end in collapse. The London of Minaret is divided into the safe space of the mosque and the hostile outside environment in which Naja rediscovers her faith after breaking up with her partner, Amar. As in her account of Omar's seedy partying, the social relations between men and women are crucial to her perception of safety. Quote, I close my eyes. I can smell the smells of the mosque. Tarred incense, carpet, and curtains. I doze, and in a dream, I am small and dark in cartoon, ill and fretful, wanting clean, crisp sheets, a quiet room to rest in, my parents' room, wanting to get up and go to my parents' room. Men's voices come from downstairs, a low rumble, a cough. I wake up and the cough reminds me of my father, the dream of my parents' room. I don't want to feel vulnerable today, end of quote. While the space of the mosque is used as a metonym for Nadra's and later Tama's re-involvement with the self and with the world, the public spaces crossed by Nadra represent the stringency and rigidity of racial and interface hierarchies of privilege. One moment of the novel describes an Islamophobic attack endured by Nadra on a bus in London. Quote, laughter from behind me. Something hits the edge of the seat next to me and bounces down the aisle. I don't know what it is. He has missed his target this time. Will they move closer? And what if they run out of things to throw? I look up at the bus driver's face in the mirror. His eyes flicker and he looks away. I stare out of the window, but I see my reflection staring back at me. It is best to look down in my shoes. I hear footsteps come up behind me. See a blur of denim. He says, "You Muslims come." Then the shock of a cool liquid on my head and face. I gasp and taste it. Fortunately, it's just César. By opposing this shocking scene to the quiet of the mosque, Migrant, the novel, further refines the theme of Omar's silly drug abuse and subsequent downfall, like the abusive uncle in the film, Uncle Errol in the film Mustang. Both Omar and the young man, the young white man attacking Nadra, are trapped in the homosocial neurostringency of hegemonic masculinity, and therefore fall into crime and social exclusion. The violence of the attack is accompanied by aggressive language use, which stresses the function of language in the sense of identity and in the othering and objection of the outsider. Tama and the friendly truck driver Yasser in the film constitute complementary images in the relativist questioning of deeply traumatized societies associated with discursive elements akin to nationalist ideology. The parable of Nadra and Tamar in the novel hints at the undemocratic risks of a liberal state in which the courage needed by Omar to stop heavy drugs with his friends and by Nadra herself to rediscover her faith is surreptitiously and sometimes even violently suppressed, as in the Islamophobic attack. While in the film Mustang, it is the antagonist's attack that is Uncle Errol's violence that calls into question the presuppositions of family and cultural rituals. The novel Minaret centers on the protagonist's revolt against the state, which is delegitimated as a surreptitiously authoritarian actor. As with Mustang's clinically conducted virginity reports in the film, the novel Minaret suggests that the ideological use of health, in the case of the discussion of drug abuse, for political control and social distinction is a mere substitute for the ideological use of the ideals of the nation. In this respect, health is revealed as merely one of the hegemonic interpretative schemes that succeed one another in the flux wherein meaning is renegotiated. In their distinctive ways, both texts criticize essentially this idea of health as a set of solid and objective facts regulated by immutable natural laws. Nadra and Tamar's journey to neuroplasticity and personal transformation is accompanied by one less effective or even harmful trickster and wise man figure, his ex-partner Anwar. But also one ideal such wise old man archetype, an archetype of a demon in Jungian terms, who appears briefly in the novel's ending. He is a friend's husband, his name is Ali, and he's a positive helper in the novel. So these two archetypes mark the beginning and the end of the narration. Anwar, the narrator's toxic boyfriend, is charming, but can be fiendish and ultimately turns out to be toxic and abusive. Conversely, Ali fulfills the dream of paternal care and wisdom, or of meaning. Quote, Ali intrigued me. I got the impression from Anwar that the English, Ali himself is a convert and Ali is his new name, that the English were all secular and liberal. Ali was nothing like that, yet he was completely English and had never set foot outside Britain. When I got to know his wife better, she told me about his conversion, how he used to be a devout Christian and felt that the church was not strict enough for him. He was not very bright, but I was touched by his patience with the children, the way he took on life. I thought of Anwar and Ali, so a toxic ex-boyfriend, and this paternal figure, this convert to Islam, how they would never meet, how the existence of one somehow undermined the other, end of quote. So this juxtaposition and counterpoint of these two marginal masculinities is direction to the neuroplastic rewiring undergone by Nadia and Talmer in the novel, which is missed, sadly, by Nadia's brother, Omar, who falls into problematic drug abuse problems. The secularized Sudanese and the Muslim Britain incarnate two faith and gender intersections which articulate the interplay of self-awareness and responsibility. Now, Michael Kimmel highlights that masculinity was further essentialized at the turn of the 20th century. Quote, academic social science was in part an effort at historical restoration that would rescue a model of masculinity that structural change had rendered anachronistic and reapplied to re-establish traditional power relations between women and men, and between some men and other men. Academic social science provided empirical measures for masculinity. If it couldn't be achieved in the marketplace, it could be demonstrated by the display of various gender-appropriate traits, attitudes, and behaviors that have become associated with masculinity. It was social science's task to enumerate the traits and attitudes and then generalize them as the normal traits associated with adulthood, thus problematizing women and other men, men of color, gay men, non-native-born immigrant men. Most often, it meant pushing these potential threats to the margins to re-establish the public arena as a safe space for men to be men with other men. This meant marginalizing women and reasserting the dominance of middle-class white men over men who were non-white, non-heterosexual, non-native-born, immigrant men, homosexual men, and black men, but all tainted with the same problem. They weren't properly manly, some were not able to exercise self-control over primitive impulses, others were overly refined and effeminate. Both effeminacy and primitivism were indications of insufficient manhood, end of quote. Akin to the truck driver in the film, his name is Yasin, the character of Ali in the novel, so this convert to Islam, challenges the hegemonic discourse of white and native-born masculinity upheld in Western, particularly English-language societies, since the last century. His marginality is highly situational, and some of us here may know R.W. Connell's historical inquiry into masculinities shows, quote, the history of masculinity should be abundantly clear, is not linear. There is no master line of development to which all else is subordinate, no simple shift from traditional to modern. Rather, we see in the world created by the European empires complex structures of gender relations in which dominant, subordinated and marginalized masculinities are in constant interaction, changing their conditions for each other's existence and transforming themselves as they do. Ali's marginal or marginalized masculinity has the potential to function as dominant masculinity depending on the circumstances. By posing him as not just wise old man in the ending of the novel Minaret, Abu Layla, the author, successfully conveys the complexity of transcultural and male gender emancipation. Bertolt Schoner and Daniel Lee point out, quote, following feminism explosion of the patriarchal ideal of femininity and its subsequent diversification to a wide variety of different femininities, many of which now incorporate traditionally masculine attributes, marginalized masculinities don't denigrate or reject the feminine, but rather coalescively. Within the present context, it could perhaps be claimed that these masculinities are already post-masculinities. No doubt as clearly visible proponents of masculine difference, their struggle for emancipation from negative patriarchal implopment must be regarded as highly conducive to the eventual demise of the reign of exclusive gender identities, end of quote. Abu Layla's sketch of Ali and his antithetical relation to Nadia's ex-boyfriend, Anwar, condenses the dynamic character of post-masculine identities. Like Mustang, the film we're going to watch, the novel Minaret places emphasis on transformation, neuroplasticity, and self-awareness across intersectional gender boundaries. The film Mustang provides the heroine Nala with a subversive vision of empowered femininity incarnated by a teacher Dilek. Both the little girls and the teacher's rational transgression of sexist cultural remembrance engage in a game of thinking and intellectual detachment from social inequalities and abuse. This is highlighted by the deliberately gothic and fairy tale-like trope of the girl's house in the film, having its doors always locked and its gates raised even higher so as to become first a wife factory, is the fairy tale Bluebeard, and ultimately a prison. It is in this subtle engagement with the French fairy tale La Barbe Bleue that the migrant cultural memory articulated by the film Mustang is revisited, reinvested in, and reinvented. Social reinvestment involves a juggling of interests, which can be described as memory reinvestment, wherein cultural memory is renegotiated. Memory reinvestment encompasses the reinvestment of historical fears, of trauma and nostalgia, in the juggling of multiple social interests and cultural meanings. When this is done across faiths and beliefs, interfaith reinvestment ensues. Collective traumas and nostalgias need to be handled through everyday radicalism and the cross-border awareness of cultural remembrance by paying special attention to the overcoming of Islamophobia, antisemitism, Christian fundamentalism, and other forms of socially enshrined fear and loathing, let alone either religious or populist radicalization. Sexist and racist fears stem from the redolence and reckless recalcitrance or recrudescence of deceitful and misleading past impressions of reward or resentment, which encompasses a self-defeating kind of reluctance to welcome and meet the social or individual needs and interests experienced in the present moment of the here and now. Democratic living involves a juggling of needs and interests enacted through everyday reinvestment on the responsible overcoming of sexist or racist fear, in order to be fully present in and aware of the collective and political here and now by means of resonance with the continuities and discontinuities between past and present needs, resources, or interests, so as to pursue the interests and meet the needs of all parties involved at every historical moment. Cinema and fiction capture both the struggle to overcome sexist or racist fear and the everyday juggling of needs and interests in the intricate experiencing of democratic or oppressive systems of everyday life as in film. Reinvestment, weaning of reluctance and resentment, responsible remembrance and resonance of a nostalgic traumatic redolence or reckless recalcitrance and reticence, radical thought and action beating radicalization or life-defeating fear, form a recurring dialectical counterpoint which is deftly mirrored in the dynamic interplay of ideological frames and everyday experiences. Racist and sexist fears hinder the social reinvestment necessary to face the security and migration crises in recent years. These racist and sexist fears are used as tools by radicalists, that is, radicalized groups and individuals who follow an elitist or a populist ideology, whereas their social implications are effectively opposed by radicals, that is, supporters of radical thinking or a radicalism of thought and action founded on universal equal rights, along with free speech cleansed from bashing against London. The film Mustang is one such case of radical engagement against the radicalization of sexist ideologies across faith and ethnic borders. In Gayatri Spivak, there's a theory of subaltern reversal, which challenges the representation of the object through a counter-gaze directed at the subject who looks in textual mirrors. For instance, in fiction and cinema, radical subaltern interest, sexist or otherwise othering inspection, identity and irony are sites of cultural memory in which guilt, fear, blame and shame are painstakingly handled. In the filmic representations discussed here, fear in its permutations as guilt, blame or shame give way to anti-sexist neuroplastic reinvestments in cultural remembrance. This focus contributes fresh insights into the connections and interrelations between neuroplastic relearning and social awareness. The teacher Dilek in the film matches the Jungian archetype of the demon or the wise old man or of meaning. Ironically, the cultural memory of training and information is here reinvested in a wise young woman, Dilek. Jung notes that, quote, the wise magician goes back in direct line to the figure of a medicine man in primitive society. Modern man, in experiencing this archetype, comes to know that most ancient form of thinking has an autonomous activity whose object he is. Hermes Trismegistus, or the taught of Hermetic literature, Orpheus, the Epimandus, shepherd of men, and his near relation, the women of Hermes, are other formulations of the same experience. If the name Lucifer were not prejudicial, it would be a very suitable one for this archetype, but I've been content to call it the archetype of the wise old man, or of meaning, and a quote. The film Mustang thus achieves a masterly reinvestment of cultural memory. The tropes of Istanbul, where the teacher Dilek is, education and female empowerment are deployed to great effect. The storytelling enacted in the teacher's Dilek's classroom, from which Lala, the little girl, and her sisters are violently separated at the beginning of the film, is a well of information which can empower the girls to overcome the conniving sexist, nationalist, and medical discourses condensed in their experience of virginity reports and other multiple clinical and ideological guesses. As with experimental novels such as those by Leila Boulela, this film's fictional text reflects on fiction and storytelling itself as the only source left when spring manifold fluid streams of belonging and selfhood. As suggested by breathtaking circular framing, the closing scene in which the girls and the teacher reunite, and as reminded also in the closing images to the metaphor of a fleeting wind sweeping over Istanbul, no kind of family, man, woman, child, or otherwise known collective or singular subject enjoys endurance eternally. Interest, inspection, identity, and irony, which partly overlap with theoretical official subalternity, Gayatris Vivek, hegemony, Antonio Gramsci, discourse, Meshevko, and narration, Borica, are the four units of cultural meaning in every radicalism and interface for investment we can look at when we watch this film. While the overlap of discourse and hegemony with identity and inspection is rather straightforward, the subaltern and the narrative overlap with interest and irony by virtue of the subaltern's position of radical interest in social change and the narrative's function of challenging cultural structures through representation and fiction. The subaltern allows irony to unmask and mirror both the given staging of identity and its hegemony carried over time. Identity is a mask hiding the traumas and nostalgias experienced in the shadow of inspection. However, the mask of identity can fulfill a redeeming purpose through the complementary mirror image of irony. The meaning of the shift from inspection or hegemony to irony is led by the pursuit of the individual's subaltern interests, which enacts a reinvestment of traumas and nostalgias of cultural memory and understanding. What radicalization does in the fear-filled inspecting vertical shadow of the tree of cultural memory, whose roots is radical subaltern interest and whose branches staged identity. Everyday radicalism rests on the rhizome-like horizontal mirror image of the cultural memory tree, which is reflected in the pool of structural irony, and we find lots of irony in the film. This is a boundless immanent space of indistinct self-other oneness in which the roots of radical interest are fully apprehended and multiple identities branching upwards and outwards are restaged and reinvested in accordingly. As Jung explains, quote, the meeting with himself is at first the meeting with one's own shadow. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared, who goes down to the deep well. But one must learn to know oneself in order to know who one is. For what comes after the door is surprising enough, a boundless expanse full of unprecedented uncertainty, with apparently no inside and no outside, no above and no below, no here and no there, no mine and no thine, no good and no bad. It is the world of water, where all life floats in suspension, where the realm of the sympathetic system, the soul of everything living begins, where I'm indivisibly this and that, where I experience the other in myself, and the other in myself experiences me. End of quote. Storytelling, which Jung subsequently associates with the archetype of the demon, the wise old man or wise young woman in the case of Dilek in the film, or the archetype of meaning, due to its potential to achieve an ironic distancing from the shadow of normalized inspection. It's presented as one such space of experiential renewal, which is discussed as a domain of immanence by Deleuze. This inquiry discusses political, literary, and filmic representations of early radicalism and interface reinvestment, using the discourse analytical tools to discuss the stage identity, inspection, radical interest, subaltern interest, and structurality. This space of restructuring and relearning from multiple cultural and social meanings is portrayed through a wide range of archetypes. And a number of contemporary radical films, novels, and political interventions concerned with sexism and racism undo and rewrite male Christian privilege through an emphasis on neuroplastic rewiring mediated by storytelling itself. For instance, Ian McEwan's post-9/11 neuronovel Saturday and Abuela's own The Translator, which came out before Minaret, achieved this in various seemingly different and complementary forms, degrees, and permutations of intersectional gender archetypes and discourses. A wide range of radical styles and subjects have been covered in films, novels, and political discussions, and it's worth to intersectionally classify and analyze their subversive countergates and utterances, forming this work's radical reimaginings of the intersectional male Christian subject, or its subaltern hierarchy based on this work's archetypes of animal versus shadow, and of the wise old man or wise young woman, and on multiple interface and radical discourses of counter-hegemony. Although these works of fiction explore very different subjects and the author's distinctive radical styles, their shared interdisciplinary interest in the rewiring of interface and radical experiences is simply connected with the meditation endorsement of storytelling, democratic debate, and fiction as an act of social healing and management performed in the exercise of free speech. While the German film director Fatih Akin rather dwells on sexist violence in Europe and Turkey, Deniz Gamze Ergüven clearly chooses to show also some positive resemblances between this European Union candidate Turkey and one of the Union's founding members, her country of residence, France. Mediterranean colours and tastes soften differences and stress the position of the Turkish teacher Dilek, for example, as an outsider but inside the mainstream French and European educated scene. Tables set for communal meals supply crucial moments of meaningful storytelling with dizzy remakings of telling selves and listening others, along with unforeseen dissonant breaks. The teacher Dilek and the youngest sister Lale stand out as two glorious global local anti-divas whose female emancipation encompasses a celebration of their corporate reality. To conclude, Minaret, the novel, and Mustang, which we watch later, deploy Abuela's interest in the world of impressions and Deniz Gamze Ergüven's penchant for the quotidian in intricate neuronarratives of unmanning and remanning of masculinities. Neuroplastic rewiring is achieved by Tama and Lale through storytelling, transformation, and self-awareness. Both works portray multiple masculinities as one fragmented whole, the sense of complete and functional neurocultural selfhood which is lost as a result of drug addiction in the novel, or social maladaptation in the case of Uncle Ariel in the film, is restored only by the neuroplastic power of narration, education, and understanding. Like our workshop here today, both works endeavour to question existing demarcations between genres, media, and cultures. I'm grateful to all of you for becoming our fellow questioners today and for taking this chance to challenge intangible walls and awareness of fiction's own reflective and neuroplastic potential in its two works, conscious the shaping of multiple subaltern permutations of the self. Thank you.